Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Defiance, watching the stars streak past through the main viewer. The ship moved through space faster than light, its quantum drive humming softly in the background. Jake had been exploring unknown space for 3 years now, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that humans might one day call home. The Defiance was not like the old Earth ships. This vessel carried the best technology humanity had ever built. Its hull gleamed with advanced metals that could bend light around them, making the ship nearly invisible. The quantum drive let them jump across vast distances in seconds, while most other ships in the galaxy still crawled between stars at slower speeds. Jake walked over to his first officer, Commander Alex Turner, who was studying a star map on his console. "Anything interesting out there, Alex?" "Just the usual empty space, Captain," Alex replied. "We're still in the Kepler sector. No signs of any alien activity." That was how humanity liked it. For the past 100 years, they had been quietly spreading beyond Earth, building colonies on distant worlds and staying hidden from the great powers that ruled the galaxy. The largest of these was the Zephyrian Galactic Empire, a massive government that controlled thousands of star systems. Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief scientist, looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." Jake moved to her console. "What kind of strange?" "It looks like a distress signal. Very weak, but it's definitely artificial." Lisa's fingers danced across her controls. "The signal pattern matches Zephyrian technology." Jake felt his stomach tighten. The Zephyrians were reptilian aliens who had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They were proud, powerful, and dangerous. Humanity had worked very hard to avoid meeting them. "How far away is the signal coming from?" Jake asked. "About 6 light years. It's coming from a system we haven't mapped yet." Alex joined them at the science station. "Could be a trap, Captain. Pirates sometimes use fake distress signals to lure ships into ambushes." Jake nodded. That was always a risk when exploring unknown space. But something about this signal felt different. It was weak and fading, like whatever was sending it was running out of power. "Lisa, can you tell what kind of ship is sending the signal?" Dr. Park worked her controls for several minutes. "It's a transport vessel, Captain. Civilian, not military. The signal suggests they have life support problems and their engines are dead." Jake stared at the star map, thinking hard. If this was a Zephyrian ship in trouble, helping them would mean revealing that humans were active in this part of space. The Zephyrians thought humans were still primitive beings stuck on their home planet. They had no idea that humanity had spread to dozens of worlds and built ships that could match their technology. But if Jake ignored the signal, innocent people might die. He had joined the Space Force to explore and protect, not to hide in the Yasin. Shadows forever. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "if we respond to this signal, everything changes. The Zephyrians will know we're out here." "I know," Jake replied. "But we can't just let people die because we're scared of being discovered." He turned to his communications officer, Lieutenant Beth Rodriguez. "Beth, open a channel to the source of that signal." "Channel open, Captain." Jake took a deep breath. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the U.E. Science. We have received your distress signal. What is your situation?" Static filled the bridge speakers for long moments. Then a voice came through, speaking in heavily accented English. "Human vessel, this is Ambassador Calthara of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps. Our ship has suffered critical damage. We have wounded aboard, and our life support is failing." Jake exchanged glances with his crew. The aliens not only knew about humans, but they could speak their language. This was more complicated than he had expected. "Ambassador, we are prepared to render assistance. What is your location?" "We are in the third planet's orbit in the Kepler 442 system. Our transport was attacked by rebel forces. Many of our escort ships were destroyed. Jake felt his blood run cold. If there had been a battle here, other ships might still be in the area. This could be walking into a war zone. Lisa, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system. Alex, bring us to yellow alert. I want all weapons ready and shields up. Captain, Dr. Park said, "Are you sure about this? If we save these Zephyrians, we'll have to explain how we got here so fast. Our quantum drive technology is far beyond anything they have." Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, aliens were dying while he stood here worrying about politics and secrets. His decision was already made. Set course for Kepler 442. Maximum speed. We're going to help them. The Defiance changed direction and jumped into quantum space. Within minutes, they arrived at the Kepler 442 system. What they found there made everyone on the bridge gasp. Debris floated everywhere. Pieces of destroyed ships drifted in space like metallic snow. In the distance, they could see a damaged transport ship venting atmosphere into the void. "My God," Alex whispered. "What happened here?" Jake activated the ship's main communication system. "Ambassador Kelthera, this is Captain Morrison. We see your vessel. Prepare for emergency transport." As the Defiance moved toward the damaged ship, Jake knew that this moment would change everything. Humanity's time of hiding was over. Whatever happened next, there would be no going back to the shadows. The rescue was about to begin, and with it, humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. The transport beam filled the Defiance's cargo bay with blue light as the first group of survivors appeared. Jake Morrison watched from the observation deck as his crew helped the wounded aliens to their feet. The Zephyrians were tall, reptilian, beings with scales that shimmered green and gold under the ship's lights. Ambassador Kelthera was the first to stand steady on her own. She was impressive even in her damaged state, standing nearly 7 feet tall with intelligent yellow eyes that seemed to study everything around her. Her diplomatic robes were torn and burned, but she carried herself with the dignity of someone used to command. "Captain Morrison," she said, her voice carrying a slight hiss that was common to her species. "I am grateful for your assistance, but I must ask how you arrived so quickly. Our distress signal was sent less than an hour ago." Jake exchanged a look with Commander Alex Turner, who stood beside him. They had prepared for this question during the short journey to the rescue site. "We were exploring this sector when we received your signal," Jake said carefully. "Our ship has advanced engines that allowed us to reach you quickly." Kelthera's eyes narrowed slightly. "Advanced engines indeed. The distance you traveled should have taken days, even with our fastest ships." Dr. Lisa Park approached the group, carrying a medical scanner. "Ambassador, several of your people have serious injuries. May I examine them?" Kelthera nodded, though she continued to study Jake with curiosity. "Of course. Our medical officer was killed in the attack." As Lisa began treating the wounded, Jake learned more about what had happened. The ambassador had been traveling to a peace conference on the edge of Zephyrian space when her convoy was attacked by rebels. The escort ships had fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "These rebels," Jake said. "Who are they?" "They call themselves the Liberation Front," Kelthera explained. "They are led by a former Imperial general named Vorthik. He believes the Empire has grown weak and corrupt. He seeks to overthrow the Emperor and establish a new order." Alex stepped forward. "What kind of weapons did they use?" Kelthera's expression grew troubled. "That is what concerns me most. Their technology was unlike anything in our databases. The energy signatures were completely foreign to us." Dr. Park looked up from her patient, a young Zephyrian communications officer with burns on his arms. "Captain, I need to run some tests on the weapon residue I found on their injuries. The energy pattern is familiar somehow. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If the rebels were using unknown technology, it could mean they had found something dangerous in the outer regions of space. "Ambassador," Jake said, "we need to get your people to safety. Where would you like us to take you?" Kelthera considered. The nearest Imperial base is 3 days away by conventional drive. But Captain, I must ask you directly, what is your ship's true capability? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jake could see that the ambassador was intelligent and experienced. She had already figured out that the Defiance was far more advanced than any ship in the known galaxy. "Our technology is ... Jake began, then stopped. There was no point in lying to someone this perceptive. "Our technology is more advanced than..." Most? Kelthera raised what might have been an eyebrow. "Captain, I have been a diplomat for over 2 centuries. I have seen every type of ship in the galaxy. What you have here is impossible by our understanding of physics." Dr. Park finished treating the wounded officer and walked over to Jake. "Captain, I need to speak with you privately." They moved to a quiet corner of the cargo bay. "What is it?" "Lisa, I analyzed the weapon residue from the attack," she said quietly. "Jake, this is human technology. Old human technology from about 20 years ago." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. "That's impossible. We haven't had contact with anyone outside our colonies." "Unsure of it. The energy signature matches the plasma weapons we used to defend the Mars colonies during the pirate raids of 2367. But this version is crude, like someone tried to copy it without understanding how it really works." Jake looked back at Ambassador Kelthera, who was speaking quietly with her surviving crew members. If the rebels were using human technology, it meant they had somehow encountered humans before. But when? And how? "Lisa, keep this information to yourself for now. We need to understand what's happening before we share this with anyone." Alex joined them, his expression grim. "Captain, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple ships approaching this system." "Imperial ships?" Jake asked. "Number." "Sir, the energy signatures match the rebel technology that attacked the ambassador's convoy. It looks like they're coming back to finish the job." Jake's mind raced. The rebels were returning, probably to make sure there were no survivors to report. What happened? The Defiance could run, but that would mean leaving the ambassador and her people to die. "How many ships?" he asked. "At least 30, possibly more. They'll be here in less than an hour." Jake looked at the Zephyrian survivors. These were diplomats and civilian crew members, not soldiers. They had no way to defend themselves. But the Defiance was just one ship against an entire fleet. Ambassador Kelthera approached them, having overheard part of their conversation. "Captain, if rebel ships are coming, you should leave immediately. Your vessel is too valuable to risk in a hopeless fight." "I'm not leaving you here to die," Jake said firmly. "Then you are either very brave or very foolish," Kelthera replied. "One ship cannot stand against a rebel fleet." Jake smiled grimly. "Ambassador, you haven't seen what one human ship can do." He turned to Alex. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for combat." As the alarm klaxons echoed through the ship, Jake wondered if he was making the right choice. The Defiance was advanced, but it had never been tested. Against this many enemies at once. Dr. Park grabbed his arm. "Jake, if we fight these rebels, we'll have to use our full capabilities." "The ambassador will see everything." "I know," Jake replied. "But sometimes doing the right thing means giving up your secrets." Ambassador Kelthera watched the human crew prepare for battle with growing amazement. She had seen many warships in her long career, but never had she seen a crew move with such efficiency and purpose. These humans were preparing to face impossible odds to protect people they had just met. "Captain," she said softly, "why would you risk everything for strangers?" Jake looked at her, his expression serious but calm. "Because that's what humans do, Ambassador. We don't abandon people in need." The first enemy ships appeared on the edge of the system, their weapons already charging for another attack. The battle that would change the galaxy was about to begin. The rebel fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a formation that filled the star system with menacing shadows. 50 ships of various sizes spread out in attack formation, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. At the center of the fleet was the massive battlecruiser Shadowfang, its dark hull bristling with gun ports. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the enemy ships surround them. His crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency, but he could feel the tension in the air. They were outnumbered 50-1. "Captain," Lieutenant Beth Rodriguez reported from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship." "Put it on screen." The main viewer flickered and showed the bridge of the Shadowfang. A tall figure stood in the center, wearing the modified uniform of a Zephyrian general. His scales were darker than Ambassador Kelthera's, nearly black with red markings around his eyes. This had to be General Vorthik, the rebel leader. "Unknown vessel." Vorthik's voice carried authority and menace. "You are harboring enemies of the Liberation Front. Surrender the diplomatic transport survivors immediately, and you will be allowed to leave." Jake stepped forward. "General Vorthik, I am Captain Jake Morrison. These people are under my protection. I suggest you withdraw your fleet." Vorthik's laugh was harsh and cold. "Captain Morrison, you command a single ship against my entire fleet. You are either insane or suicidal. I will give you 1 minute to reconsider." The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. "Alex, what's our tactical situation?" Commander Alex Turner studied his displays. "Not good, Captain. They have us surrounded. Multiple ship classes from fighters to heavy cruisers. The Shadowfang alone has enough firepower to destroy a small moon." "Sir," Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez called from his station, "the quantum drive is ready. We could jump out of here in 30 seconds. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the enemy ships closing in. Running was the smart choice, the safe choice. But Ambassador Kelthera and her people were counting on him. "Carlos, I need everything the ship has." "Lisa, what can you tell me about their technology?" Dr. Lisa Park worked quickly at her science station. "The energy patterns are definitely based on old human designs, but they're inefficient. Their weapons charge slower than ours, and their shields seem to have gaps in the frequency spectrum. Can we exploit those gaps?" "Maybe. But Captain, even with our advantages, there are 50 of them." Jake nodded grimly. The odds were terrible. But humans had faced impossible odds before. "Beth, open a channel to the entire fleet." "Channel open, Captain." "General Vorthik, this is my final answer. I will not surrender innocent people to you. If you want them, you'll have to go through." Vorthik's response was immediate. "So be it. All ships. Attack formation. Destroy the unknown vessel." The rebel fleet began to move, but Jake was already giving orders. "Alex, evasive maneuvers. Beth, target their lead ships. Carlos, give me everything the engines have." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The Defiance didn't try to fight the entire fleet at once. Instead, it moved like a dancer, using its superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of the enemy weapons. Ship's quantum drive let it make short jumps within the star system, appearing behind enemy ships before they could react. The Defiance's weapons were more accurate and more powerful than anything the rebels had seen. Each shot was precisely aimed, taking out engines, weapons, or shield generators. "Target their command ship," Jake ordered as the Defiance slipped between two rebel cruisers, avoiding their crossfire by mere meters. The ship's main guns fired, sending beams of pure energy into the Shadowfang's bridge tower. A massive battlecruiser staggered under the impact, its shields flickering. "Impossible," Vorthic's voice came over the communications channel. "No single ship can fight like this." But the Defiance was proving him wrong. The human crew worked together like parts of a single machine. Beth coordinated the weapons. Alex plotted their movements. Carlos kept the engines running at impossible speeds. And Lisa analyzed enemy weaknesses in real time. Ambassador Kelthra watched from the observation deck, her yellow eyes wide with amazement. She had seen the Imperial Navy's finest ships in action, but never anything like this. The human vessel moved through space like it was alive, dancing between enemy attacks and striking back with deadly precision. How are they doing this? One of her surviving crew members whispered. "I don't know," Kelthra replied, "but I think we're seeing the birth of a new age." The battle raged for 2 hours. One by one, rebel ships were disabled or destroyed. The Defiance took damage too. Its shields were battered and several sections showed hull breaches, but it kept fighting. Finally, only the Shadowfang remained. The massive battlecruiser hung in space, its weapons destroyed and its engines dead. General Vorthic's image appeared on the screen again, but this time he looked defeated. "You fight like no one I have ever seen," he said to Jake. "What are you?" "I'm human," Jake replied simply. "And humans don't give up." Vorthic's expression changed to one of confusion. "Human? But humans are primitive. They have no space fleet, no advanced technology." "You're wrong about that," Jake said. "We've been watching the galaxy for a long time. We've seen the Empire's strength and the rebels' anger. But we've also seen that both sides have forgotten something important." "What is that?" "That the galaxy belongs to all of us. Not just the strong or the angry, but everyone." Jake turned to his crew. "Beth, prepare a boarding party. We're going to take General Vorthic prisoner." As the Defiance's shuttles approached the disabled battlecruiser, Ambassador Kelthra joined Jake on the bridge. "Captain, you have achieved something remarkable here. You have shown that one ship, properly commanded, can defeat an entire fleet." "It wasn't the ship," Jake replied. "It was the crew. Humans work best when they're fighting for something bigger than themselves." Kelthra nodded slowly. "I begin to understand. Your people are not just advanced in technology. You are advanced in cooperation." The shuttles returned with General Vorthic and his senior officers as prisoners. The rebel leader was brought to the bridge, where he stared at the human crew with something approaching awe. "I underestimated you completely," he said to Jake, "but this changes nothing. The Empire is still corrupt. The galaxy still needs to be freed." "Maybe," Jake said, "but destroying everything isn't the answer. Sometimes the best way to change things is to show people there's a better way." As the Defiance prepared to leave the battlefield, Jake realized that this victory was just the beginning. Word of what happened here would spread throughout the galaxy. The age of human secrecy was over. Now they would have to prove that they were ready for what came next. 3 weeks after the battle, Captain Jake Morrison found himself standing in the greatest throne room in the galaxy. The Imperial Palace on Zenthara Prime stretched for miles in every direction, its crystal walls reaching toward the sky like frozen lightning. At the center of this magnificent space sat Emperor Zarnthul, ruler of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. The Emperor was ancient even by Zephyrian standards. His scales faded to a pale silver that spoke of centuries of life. His eyes, however, burned with intelligence and power. Those eyes now studied Jake with intense curiosity. "So," the Emperor said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber, "you are the human who defeated 50 rebel ships with a single vessel." "Jake," stood at attention, flanked by Commander Alex Turner and Dr. Lisa Park. Ambassador Kelthera had arranged this meeting, arguing that the Empire needed to understand what humanity represented. "Your Majesty," Jake replied, "I was simply protecting innocent people." "Protecting?" The Emperor's laugh was dry as old paper. "Captain, you destroyed the largest rebel fleet in our history. General Vorthik had been terrorizing our outer territories. For years, our own admirals could not stop him." From the side of the throne room, Admiral Krestak stepped forward. He was younger than the Emperor, but still impressive, his green scales polished to a mirror shine. Jake could see the suspicion in his eyes. "Your Majesty," Krestak said, "we still don't understand how this is possible. Our intelligence reports say humans are a primitive species with no space fleet." Dr. Park stepped forward with Jake's permission. "Admiral, our intelligence about you was also incomplete. We've been exploring space for over a century, but we chose to remain hidden." "Hidden?" The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. "Why?" Jake decided to be honest. "Because we were afraid. The galaxy seemed to be controlled by powerful empires. We thought it was safer to stay in the shadows until we were ready." "Ready for what?" Admiral Krestak demanded. "Ready to be partners." Instead of subjects, Jake replied calmly. The throne room fell silent. The idea of partnership with the Empire was so foreign that most of the assembled nobles couldn't even process it. They were used to thinking in terms of rulers and subjects, conquerors and conquered. Emperor Zarnthal studied Jake for a long moment. "Show me," he said finally. Dr. Park activated a portable holographic projector. The device created a three-dimensional image of the Defiance floating in the space above the throne. The assembled nobles gasped at the detail and clarity. "Our quantum drive technology," Lisa explained, "allows us to fold space around our ships. We can travel vast distances in minutes instead of days." The hologram changed to show the ship's medical bay. "Our medical technology can heal injuries that would be fatal to most species. We've eliminated most diseases and extended our lifespan significantly." Admiral Krestak scoffed. "Impressive tricks, but what does this have to do with partnership?" Jake gestured to the hologram. "Admiral, what if I told you that we're willing to share this technology?" The throne room erupted in shocked murmurs. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "You would share your advanced technology with us?" he asked carefully. "Not just with you," Jake replied. "With everyone. The rebels, the client species, the independent worlds. We believe that lifting everyone up makes the galaxy stronger." Admiral Krestak's eyes narrowed dangerously. "That's impossible. If everyone has the same technology, how do you maintain order? How do you prevent chaos?" "The same way you prevent chaos in your own military," Alex spoke up. "Through cooperation and shared goals. When everyone benefits from peace, everyone works to maintain it." The Emperor was quiet for a long time, thinking. Jake could see the weight of 3,000 years of tradition pressing down on the old ruler. The Empire had been built on the idea that some species were meant to rule and others to serve. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Kelthera said, "I have seen what Captain Morrison's people can do. They saved my life not because they had to, but because they chose to. Their strength comes from their willingness to help others." "And what do you want in return?" the Emperor asked Jake. "A chance to prove that there's a better way," Jake replied. "Let us help you solve the rebel problem. Not by crushing them, but by addressing the reasons they rebelled in the first place." Admiral Krestak stepped closer to the throne. "Your Majesty, this is madness. These humans could be lying. They could be planning to conquer us, just like the rebels." "Admiral," Dr. Park said, "if we wanted to conquer you, we would have done it already. One human ship defeated 50 rebel vessels. How many ships do you think we have? It was a bluff, but an effective one. The truth was that humanity had only a dozen ships, like the Defiance. But the Imperial leaders didn't know that. Emperor Zarnthul stood slowly from his throne. I have ruled this empire for 8 centuries. I have seen war, peace, rebellion, and conquest. But I have never seen anything like what you offer. He walked down the steps toward Jake, his ancient eyes studying. The human captain. You speak of partnership, but partnership requires trust. How can I trust beings I have never encountered before? Jake met the Emperor's gaze steadily. The same way we're trusting you, Your Majesty. By taking the first step and hoping the other. Side will take the second. The Emperor stopped just in front of Jake. For a moment, the two leaders simply looked at each other, one representing 3,000 years of galactic dominance, the other representing humanity's hope for a better future. Very well, the Emperor said finally. I will give you a chance to prove your words. But know this, Captain Morrison. If you betray my trust, the Empire will hunt your people to the ends of the galaxy. Jake nodded. Understood, Your Majesty. We won't let you down. Admiral Kreztak watched this exchange with growing alarm. As the meeting concluded, and the humans were escorted to their quarters, he made a decision that would change everything. That night, in a secret chamber deep beneath the palace, Kreztak met with representatives from the surviving rebel groups. The Admiral's message was simple. The humans were a threat to everyone in the galaxy, and they had to be stopped before they grew too powerful. The Emperor is old and foolish, Kreztak told the rebel leaders. He cannot see that these humans will eventually try to control us all. We must act now, before it's too late. One of the rebels, a scarred veteran named Commander Thane, leaned forward. What do you propose? We attack their home world, Kreztak said. We destroy Earth before they can bring more ships to threaten us. And the Emperor? The Emperor will understand once the human threat is eliminated. He will see that I acted to protect the Empire. As the conspiracy took shape in the shadows, Jake Morrison slept peacefully in his quarters, unaware that the greatest test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. The attack on Earth came without warning. Admiral Kreztak's combined fleet of Imperial and Rebel ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a dark cloud covering the sun. Over 2,000 vessels of every size and class spread out in attack formation, their weapons charging for the destruction of humanity's home world. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the massive fleet approach through the main viewer. The ship hung in space near Mars, along with the 11 other vessels that made up humanity's entire deep space fleet. It seemed impossible that such a small force could defend against such overwhelming numbers. Captain, Commander Alex Turner, reported from his station, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy fleet. Put it on screen. Admiral Kreztak's image appeared, his scales gleaming with triumph. Captain Morrison, you have led your people to destruction. Surrender now, and some of your colonies may be spared. Jake stepped forward. Admiral, you're making a mistake. Emperor Zarnthul agreed to partnership with humanity. The Emperor is old and weak, Kreztak replied. I act to protect the galaxy from your expansion. You will submit to Imperial rule or be destroyed. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. The odds were hopeless, 2,000 ships against 12. But he had not come this far. To give up now. Alex, signal the fleet. All ships are to engage at maximum range. Lisa, what's our status with the Allies? Dr. Lisa Park worked at her science station. The ships from the Reformed Coalition should be here any minute. The Zephyrian moderates are still an hour away. During the months since the first meeting with Emperor Zarnthul, Jake had been busy. He had shared selected human technologies, with reform-minded leaders from both the Empire and the rebel groups. These new allies had upgraded their ships and were coming to help defend Earth. But would they arrive in time? "Sir," Lieutenant Beth Rodriguez called from communications. "I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL." Jake held his breath as the first wave of allies appeared. They were rebel ships, but not the old-style vessels that had attacked Ambassador Kelthera's convoy. These ships had been upgraded with human shield technology and improved weapons. Their hulls gleamed with new armor plating. Leading them was a familiar ship, the Shadowfang, now commanded by General Vorthik himself. The former rebel leader had spent his time in human custody, learning about cooperation instead of conquest. "Captain Morrison," Vorthik's voice came over the communications channel. "The Reformed Coalition stands with humanity." More ships appeared as the moderate Zephyrian faction arrived. These vessels bore the Imperial insignia, but flew alongside former rebels. In a sight that would have been impossible just months ago, that Ambassador Kelthera's voice joined the channel. "Captain, the Emperor sends his regards." He was most displeased to learn of Admiral Krestak's treachery. Jake smiled grimly. The odds were still against them, but now they had a fighting chance. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the future of the galaxy. Show them what cooperation can accomplish." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Ships that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side, their crews working together with perfect coordination. The human quantum drive technology allowed the Allied fleet to appear anywhere on the battlefield instantly, while the improved shields and weapons kept them fighting longer than should have been possible. Admiral Krestak quickly realized his mistake. His fleet was larger, but the enemy ships were far more advanced than his intelligence had suggested. Worse, they fought with a unity of purpose that his mixed force of Imperial and Rebel ships could not match. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessels," Krestak ordered. "Destroy their leadership." But the Allied fleet protected the human ships, forming defensive formations that had never been seen before. Former enemies covered each other's flanks, shared shield power, and coordinated their attacks with devastating effect. The Defiance led the charge, its quantum drive allowing it to appear behind enemy lines and strike at the command ships. Jake watched as Admiral Krestak's flagship, the massive dreadnought Imperator, took hit after hit from the coordinated assault. "Captain," Dr. Park reported, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is from Emperor Zarnthil himself." The main viewer showed the Emperor's throne room, but now the old ruler was standing, his ancient eyes blazing with anger. "Admiral Krestak," the Emperor's voice thundered across the battlefield, "you have violated your oath and attacked our allies. I hereby strip you of rank and command. All Imperial ships withdraw immediately or face charges of treason." The effect was immediate. Half of Krestak's fleet began to withdraw, their commanders unwilling to face the Emperor's wrath. The remaining ships, mostly rebels who had nothing to lose, continued fighting, but the battle was already decided. The Allied fleet, working together, with perfect coordination, systematically destroyed the remaining enemy ships. The Imperator, surrounded and outnumbered, finally surrendered. Jake watched as Admiral Krestak was brought aboard the Defiance in chains. The former Imperial leader looked broken, his dreams of conquest shattered. "You have won this battle," Krestak said bitterly, "but you have not won the war. Others will rise to challenge you." "Maybe," Jake replied, "but they'll have to face all of us together, and that's a fight they can't win." As the smoke cleared from the battlefield, Jake received a message from Earth. The planet's leaders had been watching the battle and were ready to formally join the galactic community. More importantly, they were ready to share humanity's greatest gift, the knowledge that former enemies could become the strongest allies. 6 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood in a very different throne room. The new Galactic Cooperative Council chamber was built on a neutral space station orbiting between Earth and Xanthara Prime. Instead of one throne, there were dozens of seats arranged in a circle, each representing a different species and government. Emperor Zarnthal sat in one of these seats, no longer a supreme ruler, but an equal partner in the new alliance. Beside him sat General Vorthik, now the elected representative of the reformed coalition. Ambassador Kelthera had been chosen as the first Secretary General of the Cooperative Council. The transformation has exceeded all our expectations, Kelthera announced to the assembled delegates. Trade between our worlds has increased by 300%. Technological advancement has accelerated beyond anything we thought possible. Most importantly, there have been no major conflicts between member species in 6 months. Jake sat in the section reserved for Earth's representatives, still wearing his captain's uniform. He had been offered the position of Admiral of the new Cooperative Fleet, but he preferred to remain a ship captain. Exploring the unknown was still his greatest passion. Dr. Lisa Park, now the head of the Cooperative's technology sharing program, stood to address the council. The medical advances alone have saved millions of lives. Zephyrian biotechnology, combined with human quantum mechanics, has produced treatments we never imagined possible. What about the outer territories? Asked Delegate Morton, a representative from one of the former client species. There are still pirates and raiders causing trouble. General Vorthik smiled. That is why we have the new patrol fleets. Ships crewed by mixed species, using the best technology from all our worlds. The pirates are learning that crime no longer pays when the good guys have better ships. Jake listened to the reports with satisfaction. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still problems, conflicts, and challenges. But for the first time, in thousands of years, different species were working together to solve these problems instead of fighting each other. Captain Morrison, Emperor Zarnthal called out, "I understand your ship is ready for another exploration mission." Jake stood and nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. The Defiance has been upgraded with technology from 12 different species. We're preparing to explore the Outer Rim, looking for new worlds and new civilizations. And if you encounter hostile forces," Jake smiled, "then we'll do what we always do. We'll try to make friends first, and fight only if we have to. But this time, we won't be alone." The council session ended, and Jake walked with his old crew toward the docking bay where the Defiance waited. The ship looked different now, its hull gleaming with improvements from across the galaxy. The crew was different too. Humans, Zephyrians, and members of a dozen other species working together. Commander Alex Turner, still Jake's first officer, fell into step beside him. "Captain, are you sure about this? The Outer Rim is completely unknown territory." "That's what makes it exciting," Jake replied. "Besides, we've proven that different species can work together. Now let's see what else is out there." Dr. Park joined them, carrying her new scientific equipment. "The quantum sensors are picking up some interesting signals from beyond the galactic edge. There might be other civilizations out there. Then we'll find them," Jake said confidently. "And hopefully, we'll show them that the galaxy has learned how to live in peace." As they boarded the Defiance, Jake thought back to that day when they had rescued Ambassador Kelthera. One simple act of kindness had changed everything. One human ship had indeed changed the galaxy, not through conquest or foe,